The stars were setting over the dusty, run-down spaceport of New Tijuana, casting a sickly yellow glow over the crumbling buildings and broken dreams. In a dimly lit cantina, a lone figure huddled over a cup of lukewarm synth coffee, nursing a hangover that threatened to splinter his skull. Cale Jensen, former pilot, current fixer, and all-around has-been, rubbed the grit from his eyes and focused on the holographic display projected in front of him. The classifieds scrolled by, a blur of tedious job postings and get-rich-quick schemes. His gaze snagged on a cryptic advertisement, buried between an ad for genuine Martian sandals and a plea for interstellar life insurance, because you never know when. Wanted pilot for high-risk, high-reward expedition. Discretion guaranteed. Apply in person, room 314, New Tijuana Spaceport Hotel. Cale's interest was piqued. He hadn't flown in months, not since the fiasco on Titan's moon, and the memory of the crash still made his gut twist with anxiety. But something about the cryptic ad resonated with him. Maybe it was the promise of discretion, or the siren's call of easy credits. Whatever the reason, Cale pushed back his chair, downed the dregs of his coffee, and ambled towards the Spaceport Hotel, his scuffed boots kicking up clouds of dust as he walked. The hotel's lobby was a faded relic of better times, the once plush carpets now worn thin, the chandeliers dimmed by a patina of grime. Cale ignored the suspicious glances from the desk clerk and made his way to room 314, a door that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. He knocked twice, the sound echoing down the deserted corridor. The door creaked open to reveal a figure shrouded in shadows, surrounded by a halo of cigarette smoke. "You're the one who answered the ad?" A gravelly voice inquired, eyes gleaming like embers in the dark. Cale nodded, his hand instinctively drifting towards the empty holster on his hip. "That's right. What's the job?" The figure gestured him in, and Cale stepped across the threshold, the door whispering shut behind him like a conspirator. The air inside was thick with smoke and the stench of stale air. Cale's eyes adjusted slowly, revealing a cramped, cluttered room that seemed to be a cross between an office and a junkyard. Towering shelves groaned under the weight of dusty crates, flickering holographic displays, and tangled coils of fiber-optic cable. A makeshift workbench in the corner was littered with gutted machinery, tools, and what looked suspiciously like a disassembled laser rifle. The figure, still shrouded in shadow, gestured towards a chair that looked like it had been salvaged from a scrapyard. "Seat." Cale complied, his hand still resting on the empty holster. The figure remained standing, its presence seeming to fill the room despite its indistinct features. "I'm Raven," the figure growled, the voice like the rumble of a distant engine. "I have a job that requires delicacy, discretion, and a pilot who can keep up." A pause, during which Cale heard the soft hiss of a cigarette being lit. "You see, I've acquired a package, a rather volatile package. I need someone to transport it to the Kuiper Belt. The pay is substantial." Cale's interest was piqued despite his better judgment. "What's in the package?" he asked, trying to sound nonchalant. Raven's smoke-wreathed head cocked to one side, the ember of the cigarette dancing in the darkness. "That's need-to-know information, pilot, and you don't need to know. Yet." Cale's instincts screamed at him to walk out, to leave this whole shady operation behind. But something about Raven's words had hooked him. Maybe it was the promise of substantial pay, or the thrill of the unknown. But he found himself nodding, accepting the job before he'd even thought it through. Raven's shadowy form seemed to relax, the tension in the room easing by a fraction. "Excellent. I knew I could count on you, Cale. You have a reputation." The way Raven said his name sent a shiver down Cale's spine, but he pushed on. "What's the package look like?" he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. Raven chuckled, the sound like a low, menacing rumble. "Oh, you'll know it when you see it. Just be careful. It's temperamental." Cale raised an eyebrow, but Raven just shrugged, the movement almost imperceptible. "Your ship will be furnished with a special container. You'll receive further instructions en route. Just get the package to the rendezvous point, and you'll be a rich man." Raven's voice trailed off, and for a moment, the only sound was the soft crackle of the cigarette. Rich was a relative term, Cale thought, his mind racing with the potential risks and rewards. But the promise of easy credits had already hooked him. He stood, the chair scraping against the floor. "I'm in. When do I lift off?" Raven's response was a low, gravelly laugh, the sound sending shivers down Cale's spine. "Now, pilot. You lift off now." Cale nodded, his mind already racing with the preparations needed to get his ship, the Marauder's Revenge, airborne. He turned to leave, but Raven's voice stopped him. "One more thing, pilot." The shadowy figure paused, and for a moment, the air seemed to vibrate with tension. "You're not the only one after this package. There are others, interested parties. You'll need to be careful." Cale's gut twisted with a familiar sense of unease. He'd dealt with his share of shady characters and rival treasure hunters in the past. This was nothing new. "I can take care of myself," he said, trying to sound confident. Raven's response was a low, mirthless chuckle. "We'll see about that, pilot. We'll see." With that, the meeting was over. Cale exited the cramped, smoke-filled room, his mind already on the preparations needed to get his ship ready for launch. The Marauder's Revenge, his trusty old vessel, was waiting for him in the dockyard, its engines fueled and ready to go. As he walked through the dusty, cramped corridors of the spaceport, Cale couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He glanced over his shoulder, but the only faces he saw were those of tired, desperate spacers and dockworkers, all scrambling to make a living in the unforgiving environment of New Tijuana. The dockyard loomed ahead, a bustling, noisy cavern filled with ships of all shapes and sizes. Cale's eyes scanned the rows of vessels, his heart quickening as he spotted the Marauder's Revenge, its battered hull gleaming in the dim light. He was almost there when a hand grasped his shoulder, spinning him around. A gaunt, haunted-looking man with sunken eyes and a cruel grin leered at him. "Cale Jensen, you're a hard man to find." The man hissed, his breath reeking of cheap cigarettes and desperation. "My employer would very much like to discuss the package with you."